seems to me that we human beings live within a gap. There's a mysterious void in which we do our existence. There's an in-betweenness, not yet there-ness about what it means to live. We live somewhere between who we are right now and who we are desperate to become one day. Between the relationships that we have and we're living with and that are imperfect and we struggle with, and what we yearn for and deeply desire in terms of perfectly relating again. We live in the space between really mattering to other people and not, between feeling like we really do belong and not, between knowing that we're understood and listened to and known and not. We exist in this gap between feeling anxious and afraid and then feeling completely safe and at peace. Between being in control of our lives and between that and feeling like we're sometimes in free fall. Between chaos and rest is where we live. We vacillate between knowing and having absolutely no idea, between knowing what's real and then seeing everything all of a sudden as totally intangible. At times, life seems really black and white and clear and lucid, and at other times it seems to fade into a fog-like gray, and we really have no idea which way is up. We live, all of us, between birth and death, between existence and non-existence, between being of substance and being nothing. We live, in the Christian faith context, between Good Friday's suffering and Easter Sunday's resurrection joy. This is the life that we human beings live. We're caught in the in-between. We think, I know you, God, and then at times I have no idea who you are. Isn't life like that for you sometimes? So in between. And we long for things to come together and to find their equilibrium and rest, to know peace, to get out of the free fall and to land on solid ground and be whole and at home again. Now, we see but a poor reflection as in a mirror, the Apostle Paul writes. Then we shall see face to face. And I long for the day when I see him face to face, for the completeness of that space and that moment. All of creation longs for that rest. And I am beginning to understand that the in-between, gap-like, void-like mystery of what we're living right now is God's perfect, imperfect, perfect way of getting us to that rest. That the mystery of this, somehow in its mysteriousness, is what opens the door to knowing and understanding the mystery of God. That the pain and the dissonance and the uncertainty and the yearning and the brokenness are all part of a very intentional and mysteriously purposive journey. All around us, the apostle writes, we observe a pregnant creation. The difficult times of pain throughout the world are simply birth pangs. But it's not only around us, it's within us. The Spirit of God is arousing us within. We're also feeling the birth pangs. These sterile and barren bodies of ours are yearning for full deliverance. That is why waiting does not diminish us any more than waiting diminishes a pregnant mother. We are enlarged in the waiting We, of course, don't see what's enlarging us, but the longer we wait, the larger we become, and the more joyful our expectancy. Samuel Barber, in his Adagio for Strings, 1936, captures some of the mysterious rising up a path journey of life. And it also captures some of the in-betweenness, and especially captures, about 5 3/4 minutes into the piece, the gap, the voids that we sometimes find ourselves in, that life is. And to me, when I first heard the piece, it encapsulated what so much of faith is about: death and resurrection and Good Friday and Easter Sunday and grace and forgiveness and mercy and journey. It captures our upward climbs and times of great discord and panic when we think we're falling off the edge of a cliff, and then captures what God's grace, providentially catching hand of grace, is all about. I have to admit, I got the idea for the service reading some theological thing that I read, and in the middle of it, this guy talks about this piece, and what's so cool, right? You just go online and go to iTunes and buy the thing, and 99 cents later, you're into what he's talking about. So, a guy named Wayne Russo wrote this article, and he writes this about this Adagio piece. And I'm going to read you what he says about what the piece is, and then we're going to just start the music after I'm done the reading, guys. And you can just close your eyes and listen to it if you want to do that, or you can watch the video that we put together, just some faces from this community. But track with the piece and journey with it, and see if it's a way through which you can know God more. First, the reading. In his Adagio, Barber erects an architecture of sound in the medium of silence and time that lifts his audience gradually from the warm and soothing opening notes played pianissimo, that's sort of quiet, to the shrill chord played fortissimo, which is really strong, and you'll hear that move throughout the piece, at high range, some 53 measures later. Through long series of rising three-note sequences played legato. Legato is not staccato. Legato is like all woven into one another, so it's got a journey kind of theme in its very structure. The Adagio builds up so gradually as to carry the ear up without resistance, first by the violins, then by the violas, and finally the cellos, all ascending on harmonic thirds until a height is reached at a full octave and some 6 minutes later. At the pinnacle of the climactic chord, the tone shifts from a structure based on harmonic thirds to a jarring tension of notes just half steps apart, and sustained with the twisting of slow half-step movements for 4 long bars. The ear is carried from sonorous depths to harsh and anxious heights. And then, at the precipice of that height, Barber suddenly and sharply silences every instrument, leaving the ear in utter silent suspension as the echoes and overtones float, then fade into the void of silence. Be still and know that I am God. The effect, he says, is like being carried gently up a gradual mountain slope to the peak, only to discover too late that the pinnacle is a sharp cliff edge straight down to the other side. And one's momentum has carried one over that edge into a void of empty space. There, by sheer momentum, the resonance of echo and overtones, one continues to rise for several seconds into thin air as the sound of the strings slowly fade into silence. And at the arc of this rise, one then begins to feel free fall. Barber does not catch the plummeting ear out of this sublime but terrifying musical void until it has dropped a full octave. Then, in the softness of pianissimo, the full texture of strings, violin, viola, cello, and bass extends a warm, rich chord built of the same comforting harmonic thirds as Adagio's opening chord. The free fall is over, and the song's final 16 bars carry the audience back to earth safely. So let's listen and watch this.